Ontario Sport Minister Neil Lumsden says that he plans to donate his brain to science for concussion research. The former CFL player, Hall of Famer, and four-time Grey Cup champion announced his brain will be donated to the Concussion Legacy Foundation Canada to assist with research on brain injuries. Brain donations are important in gaining insight into the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of neurodegenerative diseases linked to repetitive head trauma. Minister Lumsden joins us now to discuss his decision. Minister, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be with you.
Now, I listed a few of your accomplishments as a professional athlete, but do you mind unpacking your journey as an athlete and why you chose to donate your brain for scientific research?
Boy, there's a lot of unpacking. I'll just do part of it because the bag's awfully big. I think a lot of it comes from certainly an athletic background and played a lot of sports as a kid, a lot of hockey, soccer, and then got into football actually late. I was a grade 9 or grade 10, I think. So when I reflect back and the opportunities that were given to me because of sport were just outstanding, and some of the learnings through sport. And, been able to apply a lot of those learnings and sort of attitudes and a willingness to do what you need to do to get some things done. So that has stuck with me. And over the years, and you alluded to a pretty good career in the Canadian Football League, and certainly University of Ottawa was 4 years, and then 3 years of high school. I've been involved in a lot of contact, and a lot of that contact has been head and neck. So when we got involved with Rowan's Law, and I learned more about the research and what they have to do and what they need to do, it became really paramount to me to how do we do something? How do I do something along with, making sure Rowan's Law, which is a big part of protecting the head and the neck in sport, what can I do other than advocating and doing some things? And I thought, it might be an interesting idea. And I talked to Tim Fleiser about it. And then I went out to Edmonton about 4 or 5 months ago to a celebration of life for a buddy of mine, who was a teammate of mine at the University of Ottawa and in Edmonton. And I found out there were a number of players that were great friends of mine that didn't come to the celebration of life for Eric because they didn't feel comfortable, because they have not been the same for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I probed a little bit more, and I found out that they could be suffering from CTE as a result of their careers in football. And then I thought to myself, well, why haven't I? Why are things great for me and they aren't great for them? And that just took me to the next level. Say, well, we got to find out. And if I can be part of that solution, then I want to be part of that solution. And then the next step came to saying, sure, I'd be happy to donate my brain when the time comes. And it'll be a ways off, by the way. But yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Now, on the topic of CTE, a recent study shared that 2,000 former NFL players think that they have CTE. How important is it to educate younger generations of athletes to prevent it or better understand how serious a concussion actually is?
Well, that's a great point, because it's one of those things, certainly in our era, and I still think young athletes and professional athletes say, I'll be okay. I just got my bell rung. And it was seen in sort of throughout my careers, it was just another injury. It's like pulling a hamstring or dislocating a shoulder. You'll be okay. Well, that's not the case. And thanks to the advocacy in Rowan's Law, the landscape has changed dramatically in minor sports and university sports and professional sports when it comes to protecting your brain and understanding that it's not just another shot, that other things have to be done. You have to step back. So I think that education and that knowledge has found its way down, again, thanks to Rowan's Law, to young people and coaches and parents, and understanding of what it really is all about, and that it's okay. Sometimes you've got to take that athlete out of the game, no matter how old they are, certainly in college and professional, because one of the underlying things in sport is athletes don't want to let their teammates down. They don't want to let their coaches down, and they love to compete. Well, that aside, it's more important to have something looked at with respect to a headshot and find out what's really wrong than going back into a game and possibly getting hurt and possibly dying as a result of extra contact when it could have been prevented.
Now, we do just have under a minute until the break, but what are things the province is doing to educate younger athletes on concussion prevention and awareness?
Well, I mentioned Rowan's Law, and that's the legislation that came into being a number of years ago. And I can tell you, before I got involved in the job that I am now, I did a lot of coaching and a lot of football coaching. And I was introduced to the change of culture with respect to contact in sport, more specifically football. So Rowan's Law has infiltrated in a good way all minor sports and educated young people, and more importantly, coaches, to coach differently. That you have to get your head out of contact. It's not part of delivering a blow in football. You can't drop your head. Rugby is a great example of technique.
So to continue, from when you played in the CFL to now, what changes have you seen in concussion protocol and prevention, and what are changes you would still like to see?
Well, the awareness of what a shot to the upper body can do, and it doesn't have to be a direct contact. The awareness of, through Rowan's Law, of coaches and managers, players themselves, parents, and understanding that even the simplest hit, because we're all so different, we take contact differently in any sport, that it's not the same as, if you and I had both broken our arms, we understand it's a broken arm, you put a cast on it. It's totally different when it comes to the brain. So that awareness has been vital, and it's sticking. It is out there and changing the way sport is being played, and that's a wonderful thing.
Now, it's no secret that contact sports a decade ago were significantly rougher with less knowledge on the repercussions. I mean, people would actually go to sporting events just to watch the fighting. Are professional sport organizations such as the CFLPA or the NHLPA doing anything for retired athletes that are now dealing with the repercussions of brain damage? I mean, another great example is Brett Favre just announced that he does have a serious brain injury.
Well, I think that you're right. The people are now starting to come out. That I was asked a question a while ago. Did I think there was a stigma attached to it? And the people that I know don't look at it as a stigma, but they just deal with it, and they have dealt with it. And now more athletes are coming out. You talked about Brett Favre. I think that awareness, whether the players associations have something in place for them, I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that there is a cause and effect in this, and more athletes are now starting to step forward saying, yeah, I think there might be something wrong. We got to look at that. And more importantly, how will it affect those that are coming behind me? And let's make it safer for them. And that's happening.
Now, how big of an impact do concussions have on a person developing mental health issues and dementia?
Well, look, I'm not a doctor, and nor have I ever played one on TV. But I do know that there's a link to all of it. And there's a bunch of those things that I think, in reference when I talked about my old teammates, that is an example of, the effect it has is, again, different on everyone. And that's one of the great mysteries as to why. And that's one of the reasons I did what I did and committed to donating my brain. That, well, again, why not me, and why other people? And then the other people, what has the effect been? Has it been a mental health issue? Has it been an anger issue? Has it one that has driven people to drugs and alcohol? We are all so different, and we got to find out why that is. And at the same time, let's go back to, as we're talking about sort of the sad side of it, sport has changed, and the way sport has changed, it is protecting the athlete. They don't practice contact as much as they used to in the NFL or the CFL, which is really important. There are no pad days where you don't have contact. It's really taking care of the athlete now more so than they did years ago, and that's a great thing.
Now, as a CFL Hall of Famer, what do you hope to inspire in people by donating your brain for concussion research?
I don't look at it as I'm trying to inspire someone. I'd like people to pay more attention to, like parents, like those that are around sport, that there is a consequence to actions. It doesn't mean you shouldn't play sport, because there's been, as I talked about, a metamorphosis throughout sport of taking the head out of contact. So that's all great stuff. Protection is better. Helmets are made differently and are better. I want young people to have the same experience as I did throughout their life and go on and have enjoyed it. And whether it's the friendships and all those great things that come from sport, and of course the learnings, I want those people to have the same chance I did, but I want it with a lot less risk. And if what I do can help that, then I'm all in.
Now, I do want to circle back. We did talk about that worry of not wanting to let your team down. Now, how important is it to understand that conflict sports aren't the only sports that brain injuries happen, and every single brain incident that happens needs to be taken seriously?
Yeah, you're exactly right in that. It's a great point, because we're talking about sport and background, but I know lots of people that had slip and falls, fallen off the ladder, and I would be one of those guys a few years ago. That accidents do happen, and anybody can get a concussion, and anybody suffers the same effects that I would have suffered from contact in a football game. Maybe not as repeatedly, but it's not the repetition, it's the individual and how it affects them. And again, the science I can't get into, but I do know that if you've had a concussion, and I've been told you're more likely to and more susceptible to get another one if the proper timing and the treatment doesn't take place. And that could be, again, a slip and fall, fooling around a pool. It could be anything. So everybody needs to be aware that if you get dinged, use that old style of describing a concussion, and you think you're okay, make sure you're okay before you move on to do anything else. I would rather have people think in those terms than say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay, because maybe they're not.
Thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it. Thanks.